Welcome back to The Garbage Reel. My name is Jack Weber, and I'm joined by my co-host, Sam Orsino.
What's up?
And today we're going to be talking about the 2013 movie, The Internship. Directed by Sean Levy, who's also known for Free Guy, The Adam Project, Cheaper by the Dozen. He directed 10 episodes of Stranger Things and the entire Night at the Museum trilogy. So this movie had a budget of $58 million. It opened to $17.3 million. And its total worldwide gross was $93.5 million. That's pretty good for a mid-budget comedy movie like that. What a last of its kind. The cast includes Vince Vaughn, Owen Wilson, Dylan O'Brien, Rose Byrne, Asif Manvi, and Max Minghella. So, what did you think of this?
You know what? I had some preconceived notions going into it a little bit about, kind of those, run-of-the-mill, just going to be like one of those, another lame comedy movie. I saw bits and pieces here and there through like Instagram and different stuff, and I watched a little bit here and there back in the past, but actually sitting down and watching it, it was pretty good. I'm not going to lie. I enjoyed some of it where, you got to see like Google headquarters and see all the things that they
used to look like.
Used to have, yeah. But then there were some moments in there that I was just like, wanting to gouge my eyes out.
It seemed like with the scenes, it was either they were really good and actually really funny, or it was some of the most cringy dialogue and comedy I've ever seen, and I couldn't wait for it to be over.
And there were so many points where it's like, these are huge names, and they're playing horribly.
Yeah, so Will Ferrell shows up as a mattress salesman.
Yeah. Dating, Billy's sister.
Yeah, he's dating
whatever?
Owen Wilson's character's sister, and Owen Wilson goes to work for him, and he is horrible.
Yeah.
I have my own thoughts on Will Ferrell, but even that was just flat out bad. It was trying to do like a Florida man on steroids, essentially, like just how he acted, and it just fell flat every time.
Yeah. It was not a great performance, and there were some others that were like Rob Gittle. Is that Riggle? Whatever his name is. I don't know these people. His performance, like, I don't mind him as an actor, but it's like another one of those things. It's like they brought him in, and he just didn't.
I thought he was doing too much because, like, he's kind of known for that, like, real intense, in-your-face comedy, and it usually works, like Modern Family, 21 Jump Street.
Yeah.
But this
one did not.
It was just a weird situation. He was, like, hitting on a bunch of old retired people, and it just felt
the jokes weren't
weird.
They weren't hitting either.
No.
So it was like okay.
I don't know. I thought most of the scenes with Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson with their banter, I always love that. I love that in Wedding Crashers, especially. This is kind of like a less vulgar version of that, but it was still really funny whenever they would do that.
Yeah. I enjoyed a lot of their banter back and forth, and some of these other like side characters. I think they did well.
Yeah. I thought Dylan O'Brien did really well with the comedy because, I mean, he's usually in more drama stuff. He was just in a comedy movie on Hulu called Not Okay, which he was kind of playing a Pete Davidson character in that, and I thought he did pretty well. It had a bit of a comedic aspect to it. But this, he was like that deadpan, sarcastic humor, kind of a hipster type to him. And it actually came across pretty well, I thought.
Thought it went pretty well as well. So
yeah. Okay, so I think with that, we're going to move on to our categories segment. And if you don't know, Sam is going to give us the categories. So, Sam?
Starting off with best quote, best performance, worst performance, best scene, bad outlandish scene, age the best, age the worst, who won the movie, and who lost the movie.
So, for my best quote, I have one from Vince Vaughn. He's they're getting ready to do one of their internship tests, and it's on the phones. It's like a help center type thing for Google. And he goes, "I'm pretty terrific on the phones. I could sell prosciutto to a rabbi, and I have."
Their banter back and forth, they do well, especially as those like being portrayed as like those top salesmen in an age
which is
where
perfect
salesmen,
for those two with just how fast they could talk like that.
And they're so like they just got a charisma about them that's like screams, "Hey, I'm good at sales."
So what was your best quote?
My best quote was from Yo-Yo. It was for a little context of this scene. It was at the end when they were all saying goodbye, leaving after they got their job opportunities from Google, and Yo-Yo stood up to his mother, which was like, if you've seen the movie, they have a lot of tension back and forth. But he says, "I grew a pair of balls. Did you see that? They're touching my ankles now." And I was dying laughing whenever this happened, and I thought it was absolutely hilarious. I had to pause the movie just to write this down because I thought that was the top quote of the movie for me.
From there, we're going to move on to the best performance. So my best performance is Asif Manvi. He's like the head of the interns at Google, and he plays it as a real kind of strict by the rules guy, and he's doing a super heavy Indian accent, which kind of adds to the comedic value of it. But he's so funny because he's very apprehensive to Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson, their characters, the entire movie. And then you find out at the end, like, he wanted them there. He was like the deciding vote. And he takes the mic from Eric Andre whenever he wants to talk, and he just comes out of nowhere and just grabs the mic from him. Everything about him is just so funny.
Yeah, I thought he did really well. I wouldn't say he's the best. I thought, you know what, for mine, it was Owen Wilson, a.k.a. Nick, in the movie. I thought he did really well. His charisma, everything about it, every time he talked, the way he portrayed himself throughout the movie was very good. And it was very relatable for those, like, people trying their hardest to make their way through life. And, you know, he got his chance, and he's doing it.
I mean, he brings, like, the humanity to that pair with him and Vince Vaughn, because he's always, mainly in this and Wedding Crashers, he's the one that ends up with the relationship at some point in the movie. He's the one that has to, like, bring the heart of the movie to it.
And I thought he did very well.
Because he ends up in a relationship with Rose Byrne's character, and Vince Vaughn is really just kind of the comedic relief. But I mean, you don't really think about that because there's such a dynamic duo. They just kill everything.
Yeah. And then over the worst performance, what did you have?
I had Rob Riggle. We said before, he does that in-your-face comedy, yelling all the time, and it works in everything else he does like that. But this one, it never worked. It always just fell right on its face.
Yeah, he did not have that big of a role, especially in this movie.
No.
But when he was on, you just wanted to turn the movie off.
I mean, he is a character actor, so he's not like a leading man.
Yeah.
But even whenever he does show up in other movies, it's like, okay, this is going to be pretty good.
Yeah.
But now it's like, no, I don't really like that.
Yeah, I have to agree with you. That was mine. And he's just, like, he was not on long, but you just wanted it to be over. Yeah. And I feel like that scene especially, it just kept dragging on.
Yeah. He was a salesman to the old folks' home with the wheelchairs, and he comes up and he's making jokes that he's slept with, like, a majority of the old women there, and it's just kind of like, what is
it just makes you a little uncomfortable and awkward, and it's like, I understand the point behind it. You know, they're trying to get
like
that out of you.
Like a sleazy salesman.
Yeah.
I mean, because they had Will Ferrell earlier in the movie who's doing almost the same thing. He's hitting on some customer.
They're basically the same character.
That's it.
And it's annoying because you have two great actors playing just atrocious characters that, like
they're made to be unlikable, but they're doing it in such a way that it's like,
it's not even just unlikable.
Awful.
It's just bad.
Well, the reason I chose Rob Riggle instead of Will Ferrell is because at least Will Ferrell has two jokes, or a couple of jokes that are like, actually, okay, this is funny. Like, he has a neck tattoo in Sanskrit on, like, the side of his neck that says "Make reasonable choices."
Yeah,
that was good.
I thought he did pretty well. Like, Will Ferrell, obviously, like that whole scene where they're in the mattress shop and trying to sell stuff. That is just like one of those, like, okay, like, we understand where you're going. You want to get them to quit his job and then keep going, but it, like, the scenes in this movie, I feel like they just hold a little too long.
That's a big problem, I feel like.
And it's just like, if you just knocked off, you know, maybe a minute or two off that scene and just wrapped it up quicker, made the jokes crisp, I think this movie would be a lot better than what it is.
Yeah, and with those two scenes with Ferrell and Riggle, they just have too many bad jokes in them. Like, we just talked about, Will Ferrell's scene has redeeming qualities to it. Rob Riggle's just doesn't. No. That's why it was worst performance for me. I don't know about you. So now we're gonna move to the best or outlandish, craziest scene, and mine was, it's near the beginning when they're first arriving at Google. It's like their first day, and they're going through, like, these orientation rules meetings, and they have a green and a red paddle for yes or no. And it's a series of questions. It's having a drink with having a beer with coworkers, taking food home from the office, having a relationship with other interns, and these are all you're supposed to answer no. And everybody's doing that except for Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn. They're answering yes. And Asif Manvi just keeps getting angrier and angrier. At one point, Vince Vaughn, it's a question on taking food home from the office, and Vince Vaughn says yes, obviously, and Asif Manvi gets real up in his face and asks, like, would you like to take home some food? And he goes, if it's perishable, like pudding or chips and salsa or sushi, and he starts listing them faster as he adds on to that list.
I thought that was pretty funny.
Yeah. And then the last question is the dating another intern. And of course they say no. And this is when he's like at his breaking point, Asif Manvi. And he asks the question again real slowly, like, is it okay to date other interns? And they hold up the red one to agree with him. And their final line, like the last laugh at that, is, so we're going to say no to love. We're going to say no to love.
So the best scene for me was whenever Billy first got into the Google headquarters and everything, and then he got up to the coffee store and started ordering drinks, and then he was like, okay, I'm ready to pay. And then
He's
the
like,
guy
how
was
much
like,
is this?
Yeah.
And the guy says it's free.
Yeah. What's the damage?
Mm-hmm.
And he's like, oh, it's free. And then he starts taking stuff.
He's
and
like, I'll have a
keeps saying
bagel.
Yeah.
You know what? I mean, these look like good bagels. Like, give me 7.
Yeah.
He's like,
and
do
he
you have a
keeps
to-go
adding
cup
more
for
and
these drinks?
Yeah. And he's like, oh, can I get like 3 or 4 drinks?
Mm-hmm.
And then he's like, first off, how are we going to carry all that stuff?
Well,
Second off,
no,
like,
at one point he says, do you have one of those big redneck guzzlers that I can have one of these?
yeah.
That had me dying.
Oh my gosh. I thought that whole scene was pretty funny.
Mm-hmm.
And like he just went back and forth. And then later on you find out you can't even take this stuff home.
Yeah.
So it's like,
It's just, they got to eat it.
Yeah.
They gotta,
He's going to eat it. He's going to eat
yeah.
it. But we do have to talk about the most outlandish scene, which was the club scene.
Mm-hmm.
Jack, let me hear your thoughts on that.
So what it is they take Owen Wilson and Vince Vaughn, take all of them to a strip club to kind of the purpose of the scene is team bonding.
Yeah.
To help them come up with their app idea, because that was their intern task. They had to come up with an app, and they ended up coming up with one where you had to answer a trivia question to determine whether or not you could use your phone, so you couldn't like send drunk texts or anything. It was for team bonding, the app. And then
It was kind
one
of
of
just
the
to bring
characters-
everything together.
Yeah, one of the characters had like a thing for his dance teacher, and the only way to actually develop that further was just to make her a stripper.
It was a pointless love scene.
Yeah, it was just,
but-
well, his character would have been completely obsolete and had nothing to do without that relationship, and that was the only way they can
His character was
kind
of obsolete anyway.
Yeah.
But
This strip club scene, it's like 15 minutes long,
It
but
felt
it feels
so
like 45 minutes.
it felt so
It's
long.
These sheltered kids, like, first experience with all of this like worldly stuff, essentially.
And it's like to the extreme too. It's not just like, they're going to go to a club and have a few drinks. Like
No, like
they're getting
drunk.
wasted.
Yeah.
They're getting wasted.
Mhm.
They're getting lap dances.
And they get into a
They're
fight
seeing-
at one point.
It's literally like all of your college nights put together into one scene.
Yeah.
And it's like, okay,
There should have been, I think, at least either rework the whole relationship story for the team leader, Lyle, and just maybe not make her a dancer, or maybe just add in a different scene where he's in her class to further that, and just take them to a bar. Like, everybody just go to a bar or something.
Make her a
get into
bartender.
bar fight.
Make her anything like say they do the club.
Mhm.
Don't make it a strip club. Just make it like a normal club, and then
Or he
just
could have
be
taken like a cooking class from her, and she'd be a
Yeah.
bartender. Like,
yeah.
it was just a weird way to like further that.
I feel like it was just like, here's this nerdy little kid. Let's get him out of his shell. Let's make him have the super hot girlfriend.
Yeah.
And it's like,
Well, they kind of do that for all of them because
They
they're
do.
all like real nerdy kids, and they just like throw them into this strip club.
it was an eye opener for me. I'm watching it, not expecting that much. I didn't even know it was a rated R movie going into it. I just, apparently went over my head. They walk into the club, bunch of naked women. I'm like, okay. Okay. And then it just went on forever.
It's almost a 180 from the rest of how the movie.
Because the movie's like,
before
the
and after how
jokes
the
are
rest of the movie
jokes
goes.
are pretty light.
Mhm.
Like the storytelling's pretty light. Like they don't take everything too seriously, and then it like jumps into this, and it's like two different movies in
Yeah.
one, and it's
But-
kind of weird.
Because they went to this strip club to like keep push that relationship with Lyle and the dancer, she never says another word to him after that, because at the final scene when they walk in celebrating, they end up getting the jobs at Google. They're like they're throwing pizza around to different people. There's a bunch of people sitting in chairs, and there's people all along like the top, and he sees her and like she waves or something or smiles.
They keep panning back and forth to like both of them looking at each other like,
And I
oh my
think
God, I'm in love.
She only spoke in that scene. Otherwise, they had never interacted besides the strip club scene.
Yeah, it was a very, very weird thing for me. But now we're going to move on to Age the Best.
Yeah.
I want to hear it. Let me hear it.
So my Age the Best was Vince Vaughn and Owen Wilson's banter. Mainly because like we don't get these types of buddy comedy movies that much anymore. We also don't get these mid-budget comedy movies anymore.
Yeah.
But like there's no movies that it's two guys like these that just play really well off each other. Except, I mean, maybe you could argue Kevin Hart and The Rock, but that's just real campy. Like, The Rock is kind of a tough guy, does anything.
More action stuff, too.
And Kevin Hart is just, like, screaming at him, like,
Yeah.
going crazy. But I love their banter in this and in Wedding Crashers, too. How about yours?
So Age the Best for me was, I think, the headline actors. If you look, there's just so many like great actors in this movie. They didn't all play great roles, but they all did a very good job. And that's one of those things like you can look back and you're gonna be like, okay, that was a pretty good movie.
Yeah.
Like you're gonna make good money, you're gonna do well. Like that movie, it'll continue to represent pretty well for these actors going forward.
Because, yeah, there's Rob Riggle, Will Ferrell. They're both in as character actors. They have maybe 5 minutes of screen time. And then John Goodman is like their old sales boss for watches, I think. And then Eric Andre for those fans of the Eric Andre show. He works for Google. BJ Novak is in this as like a hiring manager from The Office. Yeah, there's a lot of
big names
that are
and
just
like,
sprinkled throughout.
They do little cameos here and there, but it's like they do bring a lot of the comedy stuff in. Like they all have comedy backgrounds, and they just like pull little people here and there.
Yeah.
And I thought they did a very good job of it.
Yeah. So moving from there, we're going to go to the Age the Worst. So my Age the Worst is making working for a tech company seem so glamorous as it is, as they show it, because
They make it
now-
look cool.
I mean, I'm sure it was in 2013, because obviously a bunch of those companies have redesigned for like a modern, like sleek look. But I think now with everything that we've gone through with technology and privacy and stuff like that, especially working for Google, that's had a lot of security breaches, and selling info to advertisers, it's just creates a lot of distrust from people to the companies, and I feel like this movie wouldn't get made to be set at Google.
Yeah.
It'd be set somewhere else. I couldn't think of where, but that's what I think.
Yeah, my Age the Worst was this kind of comedy movie, because it's just like, they do good, but like they're a dying breed. Like you don't see these kind of comedy movies that much. There's some stuff in here that with cancel culture, I don't know how some of this stuff flies.
Maybe, yeah.
I know you disagree with that a little bit. Yeah.
When I was thinking about
But
that.
it just like, it feels like, okay, some of this is pushing a little too far. For the kind of comedy movie it is, it's more lighthearted, but then there are some that it's like, you didn't need to sprinkle that comment in. But like, I don't know. I wish we did have more like lighthearted comedy movies, bring a little love interest. Let me get like the plot rolling.
Like
just
the
to,
formulaic comedy movie
Yeah.
from the 2000s and
they're
early
dying
2010s.
breeds because they're just
Well,
want
'cause-
to pump out dramas and all this other stuff.
Well,
where
we'll
it's
get
just
to
like-
that next, because my who won the movie is the director Sean Levy, because he does a lot of what's now considered high budget comedy, because he did Free Guy after this. He's done episodes of Stranger Things, but he also did The Adam Project. I think he has another movie with Ryan Reynolds and Will Ferrell coming out, and I think he's doing Deadpool 3 as well. But that guy just directs anything comedy now. But all the comedy movies that we see now are these ones that cost like well over $100 million to make. And I mean, they're different than these just to kind of get people into theaters, to kind of change up what we think about these movies. But it's all these, like, you get one leading star, a bunch of like smaller character actors to say these quippy Marvel lines,
Yeah.
or somebody from a Marvel movie in there. And I don't know, I'll give it to him. Sean Levy's killing it right now. He's doing everything he can, making so much money. But yeah, these mid-budget comedies don't exist much anymore.
No, and it's a shame.
Mm-hmm.
It's a shame.
So who's your one the movie?
My one the movie. It kind of goes off of your Age the Worst, which is Google. I thought, their whole campus, their whole thing, like everything going into it, like the internship process, like all that, they really like glamorized it and like glorified it and made it like look really cool.
Mm-hmm.
Like they have that cutting edge, they have everything cool.
I mean, they've got slides in the workplace that people just slide down.
Yeah, and they have nap nests or whatever.
Nap pods.
Yeah. And they do a lot of cool things that's like showing their innovation. And like even like looking back on it, it's like kind of like the Top Gun Maverick movie where it's like it invites you to do that thing.
Well, I think this was either filmed at Google headquarters or they like went there and just made a replica of it or something in a soundstage. But I remember reading one time it is like that's how Google looked.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it's like sign me up because that's really cool.
So now our final category, who lost the movie. So mine is these mid-budget comedy movies we've been talking about, like these. Because these just kind of died soon after because these ended up all being very formulaic. They just follow the same thing. Somebody gets in like a rut. They try something new. They
try to follow their dreams.
There's some type of relationship at the end that obviously works out. And then everything comes up and then gives a happy ending at the end. And this movie was one of like the last of those. And it wasn't reviewed great. Like it was whenever we looked to decide if we want to do this movie, they were all just kind of like around like 5 out of 10 or 2 out of 5, like just kind of average to below average reviews.
Yeah. And that was the kind of same for me. It was the movie itself. I thought, if it came out today, I think there would have been some backlash here and there from the Karens in the world.
Well, I think if it came out today, it wouldn't even go to theater. It'd go straight to a streaming service.
Yeah.
That's the other thing. A lot of these movies aren't going to theaters like this. They're just going
straight to
Paramount
Netflix.
Plus or
They're going
Netflix.
straight, yeah. And that's bringing a lot of the quality down too, because they're just like, oh, we're not gonna get the big stuff out of the movie theaters.
Like we don't need to rely on ticket sales. It's just are we going to get more subscribers from this?
How many streams? How many subscribers? It's all this other stuff. They're just playing the numbers and like, I understand that's how the world works, but it's also annoying because they're just not caring as much.
Yeah.
They're not trying to put out quality movies. They're just kind of pumping things out. Like Netflix is just pumping streaming service. I mean, different movies out, and it's like, guys, can we make some quality? And it's like I want to be entertained. I don't want to just stare at the screen and just be like, what did I just watch for the past 2 hours?
Yeah. So I think that's going to do it for us here at the Garbage Reel for this week. You can find us on YouTube and Apple Podcasts at the Garbage Reel. This episode should be out Wednesday, November 2nd, I think.
It is the
2nd.
I believe it is the 2nd.
Yes. Okay. So you can find us anywhere at the Garbage Reel on YouTube and Apple Podcasts. Thank you very much for listening, and we'll catch you next time.
See you guys.